Welcome to Storyflix. In this video, we will explain Morning Grave. This movie tells the story of a teenager who can see ghosts who returns to his hometown to face his demons. Will he be able to use his ghost-seeing ability to help the ghost seek justice? Let's find out in Morning Grave. Morning Grave begins by showing a high school student named In-soo who is on a train on his way home. At that time, In-soo is on the phone with his mother when he notices that the pendant he always carries with him suddenly spins fast on its own. In-soo immediately realizes that this indicates the presence of supernatural beings around him. Sure enough, a female ghost appeared and was not far from him. Soon, In-soo's school friends come and bully him because according to rumors he can see the existence of supernatural beings. Suddenly, the female ghost figure on the train finds out that In-soo has been able to see her all along. Arriving at the house, it turns out that the female ghost continues to follow In-soo and asks him to help her get a revenge. The scene then switches and shows the police finding a woman's body where the corpse is a ghost that has always followed In-soo since he got off the train. One day, In-soo contacts his uncle, Sun-il, who can also see ghosts and expresses his wish to return home because he can't stand the constant bullying at his current school. In addition, he also feels frustrated because he can see ghosts. Sun-il tells In-soo to ignore the ghosts he sees and act as if he can't see them because if he helps the ghosts, they will continue to follow him. In-soo then asks his uncle about what happened to A-young, his childhood friend, a few years ago. An annoyed Sun-il then says he doesn't remember the incident because it's been too long. In-soo finally decides to leave Seoul and return to his hometown. On the way, he accidentally runs into a girl ghost who throws a warm smile at him, but he pretends he can't see that girl ghost. Arriving at the house, In-soo's arrival was immediately greeted by his uncle, who ensured that there were no ghosts following him. It turns out that In-soo's grandfather used to be a very good ghost hunter, and the necklace that he always carries is a legacy his grandfather left for him. On his first day at school, In-soo is introduced by his homeroom teacher as a transfer student in front of the class. In-soo is then approached by a beautiful female student named Hyun-jae who tries to seduce him. However, In-soo just stays silent and seems uncomfortable with Hyun-jae's attitude. After that, In-soo feels the atmosphere in his classroom turning tense and feels a strange aura around him. Then suddenly he sees a ghost near the window leaving bloodied hands on the window pane, which of course only he can see. When In-soo tells his uncle about this, Sun-il says that the ghost holds a bitter grudge against many people and is very dangerous, so he asks In-soo to just ignore it. The next day, In-soo sees a blind woman sitting leaning against a shady tree accompanied by a dog. Because he has a painting hobby, he then draws a sketch of the woman and her dog. Not long after that, the girl ghost that he had previously seen while on his way to his hometown some time ago suddenly appeared in front of him and asked him to talk. However, he tries to ignore her and pretends not to see her. In-soo is then visited by two of his classmates, Hae-chul and Kai-tae, who look surprised by his painting because they only saw the blind woman but didn't see the dog anywhere, which indicates if the dog is a ghost. Hae-chul turned out to warn In-soo not to get close to Hyun-jae. After hitting In-soo, Hae-chul then says that he was his friend in elementary school. He then reminds In-soo of the incident that happened to A-young, which makes him reminisce about his past. Hae-chul then threatens to spread rumors that In-soo can see ghosts if he stays close to Hyun-jae. The scene then switches and shows a girl named Sung-hee walking alone. But suddenly her two friends, Hyun-jae and Na-ra, appear and surprise her. The three of them are now walking together. However, unbeknownst to Sung-hee and her friends, a mysterious figure has been watching them for a long time. Arriving at the house, Sung-hee is surprised by the plastic wrap that appears to be dripping with blood. Although scared, Sung-hee is also curious and tries to find out what is inside the plastic package. But suddenly the plastic wrap exploded and blood spurted on her body. Suddenly, she became hysterical and rushed to clean her body. Not long after, a female ghost wearing a mask appeared in front of her. A frightened Sung-hee immediately calls Hyun-jae, but because the signal is bad, Hyun-jae can't hear what she is saying. The next day, In-soo is again visited by a girl ghost who has a warm smile. In-soo again tries to ignore her, but the ghost girl says she doesn't want to ask In-soo for help or bother him. Even the ghost girl said that she didn't remember her own name, she just wants to be friends with In-soo, so she doesn't feel lonely. Hearing this, In-soo feels pity and decides to befriend the ghost girl. In their conversation, the ghost girl suddenly shuddered at the feeling of an evil aura that suddenly appeared. The ghost girl says that the evil aura comes from a female ghost wearing a mask and leaves In-soo right away. In-soo is curious, then tries to find the whereabouts of the masked ghost. He then took out his grandfather's necklace as he walked through the school area. The necklace pendant suddenly spins fast on its own when he is in front of the door of a warehouse, and when he peeks inside, he sees a long-haired female ghost turning towards him. In-soo pretends not to see the ghost and rushes away from there. That night, Sung-hee is seen being held captive in a dark room. She continues to receive frightening terror threats from the mysterious person who kidnapped her until she finally dies. The next day, In-soo and the ghost girl are talking about In-soo's past. In-soo then tells about how he first saw a ghost, at which time he found out that his friend, A-young, was actually killed by someone. A-young's spirit shows In-soo who killed her. However, In-soo, who is still a child, does not dare to testify and say who the killer is. Because of this, he always feels guilty whenever he thinks of A-young. In-soo then visits A-young's parents' house to apologize. A-young's father tells In-soo that he has accepted his daughter's death long ago and has never blamed In-soo. He then thanks In-soo for still remembering his late daughter. Afterward, In-soo sees A-young's spirit smiling warmly at him and waving goodbye. In-soo finally feels relieved that he is no longer guilty of the death of his best friend. Since that incident, In-soo and the ghost girl become closer and spend a lot of time together. One night, In-soo and his uncle are relaxing at home accompanied by a female ghost that In-soo sees in the school warehouse. Curious about the ghost wearing a mask, In-soo asks the female ghost this question, who explains that he only knows the name of the masked ghost, which is Si-hee. Meanwhile at school, Kai-tae and Nara seem to sneak into the classroom to pick up a cell phone they left behind. Because the school is already quiet, the two intend to take advantage of the moment alone to make love. However, Nara says that she wants to go to the toilet for a bit. A mysterious figure suddenly attacked him when Kai-tae was waiting for Nara in class. Meanwhile, Nara, who was in the toilet, felt someone was following her. She then checked the toilet cubicles one by one and saw a ghost who resembled her friend wearing a mask and a scary face. A frightened Nara then ran out and returned to class, but Kai-tae wasn't there. The classroom door suddenly closed and locked itself. Nara is terrorized again by a scary masked ghost. She tries to call Hyun-jae, but the one talking to her on the other end is Si-hee. Nara ended up having the same fate as Kai-tae, who had to die that night. The next day, Sung-hee, Nara and Kai-tae are declared missing. In-soo then tries to find information about Si-hee by asking one of his friends in class. Slightly frightened, his friend tells In-soo that Si-hee used to be their classmate. But she committed suicide due to severe trauma. In-soo also learns from the ghost girl that Si-hee is traumatized by bullying by her own friends. In-soo was furious and then approached Hae-chul and Hyun-jae, who were walking alone. Without thinking, he then attacked Hae-chul and the two got into a fierce fight until finally In-soo was pushed and threatened by Hae-chul. But In-soo tells Hae-chul and Hyun-jae that it was they who killed Si-hee and asked them to take responsibility for the abuse they had done to Si-hee, or Si-hee would come and punish them like she did punish Sung-hee and the others. However, neither Hae-chul nor Hyun-jae want to admit that they were the cause of Si-hee's suicide. Hyun-jae tells Hae-chul that In-soo's words may be true on the way home. Hyun-jae then shows a photo, which turns out to be a photo of Si-hee's father looking vengeful and angry at his daughter's funeral. Hyun-jae thinks that Si-hee's father may have been the cause of their friend's disappearance. Hae-chul and Hyun-jae then infiltrate Si-hee's father's house and intend to kill him. But when they got there, they were attacked by Si-hee's father, who had been possessed by the spirit of his daughter who wanted revenge. Hae-chul and Hyun-jae end up experiencing the same tragic fate as their friends. In-soo, who previously received a message from Hyun-jae informing him of her whereabouts and asking for help, then rushes to Si-hee's father's house, where he meets the man blankly walking out of the warehouse. When he goes inside, In-soo is shocked to find Hyun-jae and the others, who have become corpses. While checking the closet, he also finds the body of a girl wearing a mask, who is none other than the ghost girl. In-soo is very surprised to discover that the ghost girl, who always looks cheerful and smiles warmly, is Si-hee, who holds a grudge against her friends. It all started when Hyun-jae and the others bullied one of their classmates. One day, Hyun-jae was called by their homeroom teacher and was scolded badly because it turned out that someone had complained about what she had done to their homeroom teacher. An annoyed Hyun-jae then took the anonymous letter and then matched the handwriting on the letter with her classmate's handwriting until it was finally discovered that it was Si-hee who had complained about the actions of her and her friends to the teacher. From then on, Hyun-jae and the others started bullying Si-hee. They cut her hair, force her to always wear a mask, and threaten to torture her if she takes off the mask. The bullying continues, torture after torture has to be endured by Si-hee, but no one tries to help her. Even her classmates seem to turn a blind eye to the bullying she experienced. Her father, who found out about the bullying, asked Si-hee to report the bullying she was experiencing to the school or the police. But Si-hee thinks that it will be in vain. One day, the teacher, who seems annoyed that Si-hee keeps wearing a mask, then forcibly removes the mask, causing Si-hee to be tortured again by Hyun-jae. Unable to stand the torture she always received, both physically and mentally, she decided to end her life. In-soo is devastated when he learns of all the suffering that Si-hee has endured in her life. He then goes to Si-hee's room and finds her diary, which contains the names of Hyun-jae and the others, who are the targets of her revenge. After reading Si-hee's diary, In-soo rushes to school because it turns out that Si-hee's revenge is not over. In-soo then calls his uncle and asks him to come to Si-hee's house to perform the ritual of sending spirits to the afterlife. He then gets a message from his homeroom teacher telling him to come to the library immediately. Not only In-soo, but all his classmates also get the same message. Realizing that something is wrong, In-soo tells his friends to get out of there immediately. When In-soo warns his friends to leave immediately, the lights suddenly go out and the door locks on its own. They could see their homeroom teacher was pouring gasoline all over the library area in the dark. The female teacher, who has been possessed by the spirit of Si-hee, then comes to them while lighting a match. Si-hee then expresses her disappointment to everyone for ignoring her when Hyun-jae and her friends bullied her. When she was about to drop the lit match into the gasoline, suddenly someone caught it to avoid the fire. It turns out that the one who caught the match was the ghost girl, or the embodiment of the good side of Si-hee, who asked her alter ego to end all her revenge. However, the masked ghost refuses and reminds Si-hee of all the suffering she went through because of the bullying. She continues to fuel Si-hee's good side and then blows her away. The chairs in the room suddenly floated up and an aquarium broke apart. In-soo tries to stop his teacher, while Sun-il prepares to perform the ritual of sending spirits to the afterlife at Si-hee's house. In-soo then tells his friends to split up and uses his necklace to detect the presence of the vengeful spirit of Si-hee hiding in one of their friends' bodies after In-soo manages to incapacitate their teacher. In-soo manages to find Si-hee, who lit the match again, threatening to burn them all. But then, In-soo shows Si-hee a book in which it is revealed that they were childhood friends. Si-hee often helps In-soo, who is often bullied by his friends at school. Since childhood, In-soo turned out to like Si-hee. He apologizes to Si-hee for not recognizing her earlier, and now he remembers everything. Si-hee returns to the beautiful ghost girl and hands In-soo her lighter. On the other hand, Sun-il has finished performing the ritual, and as she leaves for the afterlife, Si-hee bids In-soo farewell with tears in her eyes. After the incident, In-soo and his classmates visit Si-hee's grave and pray for her. Several years later, In-soo is now an adult and becomes an intern teacher who teaches at his former school. When In-soo is in his former class and asks for an empty seat at the back of the class, suddenly a scary ghost appears in front of him, and the movie ends. Many South Korean films have the theme of bullying because it is still a frightening specter for students in South Korea. Bullying, regardless of its form, whether physical or verbal, can have the same impact on its victims, where they will experience prolonged trauma that is difficult to heal and eventually decide to commit suicide. Bullying may be avoided if we learn to start caring for the people around us and also learn to be more courageous in telling the truth and not be silent when we see other people being tortured.